everyone, and welcome to the College Chats podcast. Well, as is customary around this time of year, we eagerly anticipate the arrival of the old man in the crimson suit, and I'm not talking about Nick Saban. Yep, it's time for our Christmas special. And what's better at Christmas than everyone getting back together to catch up and look back on an amazing year? And for us, it's become something of a tradition that we try to get the band back together, and it's a Christmas miracle because we have. And on this episode, I'm joined by the full complement of chaps, Ollie, Alex, and Laura. Laura, hi. How are you?
Hi, guys.
You were in Pittsburgh last night, so you've made it back from there. Have you thawed out yet?
No, I'm still frozen. That was so cold, you guys. It was 17-ish degrees, but it felt like somewhere between 7 and 10. And I think it would be fine if you were just out there for a little blip, but being out there for hours on end, I don't know how the players do it. Maybe the warmed benches and some of the things help and they're running around, but I admire their ability to get through games like that because it was just absolutely frigid.
And quick life update. Since we last spoke to you, you won a sports Emmy. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I can take no credit. That is for the team. The group at NFL Live is the reason why we were fortunate enough to win that award. But it does mean the world to me to see them get rewarded for all the hard work.
And a new member of the family. You've not adopted me, but you've got George in the family now.
George.
So
Listen, George, it's not that he's not named after you. He might be named after you. Basically, what we thought is we know a lot of great Georges, you being one of them. So it worked out perfectly with our new dog. And he's great. He's very sweet. But also, I think that we need to get our brains checked for deciding to get a puppy plus 2 kids in the middle of football season. That was not our smartest idea, but we're getting through it with gratitude.
and if it's not enough to have Laura on the show, we've got Alex back.
Hey.
Alex, Ollie, a rare treat to have us all on the podcast at the same time. How are we?
I've been on an episode more recently than Ollie has, so we just need to put things into perspective a little bit here.
No comment.
Any sports Emmys for either of you two?
No, not in the review or in the foreseeable. I don't think.
Right. Let's talk about football. It's a bit of a retrospective for this. We don't have a ton of time, so let's bash on. Highlights of the season. Laura, what's been your favourite moment from because you've done a lot, right? You do SEC Nation, you do NFL, you do Monday Night Football. What's been your highlight of the season so far?
I loved the SEC championship. And I feel like if you looked back at our previous episodes this time of year, I might have said that a few times. But this year was just really special, I think, for Georgia and just the dominance that they came out with in that game, knowing that Alabama had beat them at their place earlier in the year. And that did not sit well with them, knowing they're fully in the college football playoff. They have nothing to worry about. And yet they said, we don't care. We want to win an SEC championship and we want to show who we are. And it was just really fun to watch what they did. And listen, I'm happy Alabama made the playoff. That may be an unpopular opinion because I know there's a lot of people that are pissed about that. But I think Alabama is still one of the 12 best teams, but they just were not in the same class as Georgia in that game. And they'll get a chance for redemption against Oklahoma on Friday. But I thought it was just such a testament to great coaching by Kirby Smart. And then, of course, the buy-in from the players as well.
Or a couple of SEC home games this weekend in the first round of the college football playoff. Well, you've been across the entire SEC landscape this season with SEC Nation. What's been your doubleheader? What's been your favourite stadium to visit this year, and also the best atmosphere that you've experienced on the road?
Yeah, that's a great one. Actually, I think the best atmosphere we experienced was at Mississippi State. And we went to that game and it was against Georgia. And, Mississippi State had lost some of these games by close margins. And I'm not sure anyone was thinking they were going to win the game. But the fans, the way that they showed up. And have you guys ever experienced cowbell? I don't think so. You need to at some point. And you also will want to die because it's so crazy and so loud and so insane. but there's nothing like it. And we had just at SEC Nation, I mean, it was just completely so many people and so much cowbell. It's one of my favorite atmospheres of the entire season. So that's probably a bit of a shocker to go with Mississippi State there, but that was one of the best atmospheres that we saw. And then I think, performance wise and just, some of the great moments. I mean, I would point to Ty Simpson in Athens for that game earlier in the season, which I was on the sideline for that game. And it's interesting. Kirby Smart said it too. Like, he's not sure he's ever seen a quarterback that dialed in for such an extended stretch. And just the throws he made over the middle of the field, some of the things that he was doing at that position were just unbelievable. And Georgia adjusted some in that game. And then, of course, they played him better the second time. But that's a singular performance that sticks out to me.
So, some great performances, some great venues visited. You've also had some fantastic guests on the show. Who was your favorite guest this year?
I love this. Lainey Wilson was my favorite guest. We had the country music superstar join us in Baton Rouge. And I mean, she's so talented, right? But just a lovely person. And she was so fun. We had Paul Feinbaum coming out in these bell-bottom jeans that are kind of like her trademark. And her reaction to that is one of the funniest things I've seen on the show in a long time. So she was my favorite. She also had some great game picks too. Her reasoning for why she was picking games was just hilarious and so entertaining.
So it's been another season, not a great season, but there's been a lot of surprises, a lot of shocks happened this season. We'll go around the team for this one. But Laura, what was the most surprising thing? What was the biggest shock that you encountered this year, do you think?
My biggest shock was Alabama losing to Oklahoma again. It was like that happened last year, and you're thinking, my God, like surely they're not going to lose in Tuscaloosa to this team that sort of knocked them out of the world last year, and then they lost again. I mean, it's a credit to Oklahoma for sure, and the defensive plan of Brent Venables is just second to none, and they're certainly going to have to deal with it again on Friday. It's going to be fascinating to see which team wins that game, because I would not count out Oklahoma by any stretch of the imagination, but it's hard to imagine Alabama losing twice to them. But then again, it did happen in back-to-back years. So that one really shocked me. That just felt like one that I didn't see coming at all.
Ollie?
For me, I think it was just how bad some of the teams that were expected to be so good this year were across the college football landscape. Teams like how Clemson and Penn State, and even to a degree at the start of the season, how bad like Texas were relative to everyone's expectations. And I think that was the biggest shock. Really, was when you look at preseason rankings, and there's a lot of debate about preseason rankings and rankings of all descriptions right now. But when you look at preseason versus what we ended up with on the final college football playoff rankings, the disparity between those two sets, I think, really highlighted the shocks that we've seen this year, and obviously some head coaches falling along the way as we've gone through there as well. So yeah, teams like Clemson and Penn State, and although it kind of worked out down the stretch for Texas a little bit, the way they started the year versus the expectations was for me truly shocking.
Alex, I know you've not had a chance to see a lot of football, but you've definitely experienced some shocks. What caught your eye?
I'm going to go wild. I'm going to be wild here. The biggest shock of the year hasn't happened yet, because it's going to be happening on Saturday, because Tulane are going to beat Ole Miss and
Woo!
Good grief!
I like that.
Just hanging it out there.
Some people will say you're just setting us up for the next segment, but which is right? Which teams make it through to the next round? But we're not strapped for time. But maybe the question is, are there going to be any shocks? And Alex has already given us a bit of a spoiler alert. But Laura, do you see any shocks happening? You've already touched on Alabama, Oklahoma, which appears to be the tightest game. But do you see any shocks happening?
You guys, I mean, listen, I do think that A&M is going to win the game against Miami, but I would not be surprised if Miami pulls this off. But think about the last time we saw A&M, and they just did not look very good. And Marcel Reed showed some things, some ways that you could affect him. Certainly if you force him to be limited with his legs and have to throw the football, there are some ways that you can make him uncomfortable. Now they've had a lot of time to sort of figure things out, but they've also had a lot of time off, and you never know how that's going to factor in. And Carson Beck, I mean, when he gets in a groove, he can be dangerous. Now, my devil's advocate to my own point is that Kyle Field is an atmosphere that is unlike any other, especially just knowing the stakes that are at play in this game. But it's not a night game, it's during the day. It's still crazy and wild in there. It's going to be loud as all get out, but I don't know. That's one that's probably a little more interesting to me than I would have originally thought, on paper, especially the way that A&M was playing at points in the season. But toward the latter part, I mean, they should have lost to South Carolina. Then, they sort of limped out of that game, and then they lose to Texas. So I wouldn't be super shocked. I guess it would be a shock, but I wouldn't be that surprised if Miami pulls that off.
Yeah, it feels like the saving grace for the Aggies it's at Kyle Field. But as you just rightly pointed out, it's a noon kickoff, so it's hardly going to be the nighttime atmosphere. Ollie, do you see any shocks coming down the line?
Yeah. JMU over Oregon, Tulane over Ole Miss, Samuel Whale. I think for all that's been made of this week, and pretty much since it became apparent there was going to be two group of 5 teams in the college football playoff, there's been so much been made in national and international media about the potential for massive blowouts and how the group of 5 doesn't belong in the playoff and blah, 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 blah. That I think like a close game in either of those two games, especially given Ole Miss and Tulane have already played each other and how one-sided that game was. Like, I think a close game in either of those two games would be shocking for a lot of people. I don't think it'd be shocking for anyone who's watched James Madison play this year that they could hold Oregon really tightly. But for a lot of people, that would be classed as a shock, I think. So I think the closeness of those two games relative to national and international perception is probably the biggest potential shock. And then I think whatever happens in Alabama, Oklahoma is kind of going to be shocking one way or another, right?
Yeah. I mean, going back to the Ole Miss game, there's a lot of variables there now, right? How the players going to cope with the change in the head coach. Again, there's been a period of time since they last played a game. I think it's going to be pretty interesting. Alex, I'm going to assume that there aren't any more shocks coming down the line in your book, but I will ask you the first question of the next segment is, who do you think will win the whole thing then?
Whoever wins the Fiesta Bowl is winning the whole thing. You're giving one of Ohio State or Georgia an extra day's rest going into the national championship game against probably one of Indiana or Texas Tech. Whoever comes out of that side of the bracket is winning the whole thing.
Laura, let me put this to you slightly differently. How good is Indiana? Could Indiana go on and win the whole thing?
Yeah, I think Alex brings up a great point. I mean, that side of the bracket is definitely more favorable, and that extra day's rest, especially at that point after the gauntlet that's been this season, that's legit. I think Indiana is for real. And, what Fernando Mendoza has done is remarkable, deserving of the Heisman Trophy, as we all agree. But I think the way that team is built, it's built for a championship run, and they are deserving of the 1 seed. They've shown it. The one thing I wonder about with Indiana is they haven't been super tested. I mean, Mendoza's had to lead them back from behind, but it's not been like what Georgia's dealt with, or even some of these other teams that have had their backs against the wall that could end up in those final games. And I just wonder how they would respond. I don't doubt them at all. And I think Cignetti is one of the best coaches in all of college football. Fernando Mendoza is the Heisman Trophy winner, and he's so talented. But how does the entire team respond if they were to get into a tight situation? That's my one doubt about them. But they're definitely capable of winning it all. And I don't know it. I mean, at this point, if that surprises people, then you haven't really paid attention to the way that Indiana is built.
Ollie, do you see anyone outside of Georgia, Ohio State, Indiana winning the national championship this year?
Yeah, James Madison Dukes to me. Put your mortgage on it. Honestly, I said a few weeks ago But I think this Georgia Bulldogs team has the hallmark, or every hallmark, of a Kirby Smart-led college football national champion team. Doubted, kind of tested, people kind of sleeping on the quarterback a little bit, but the defense playing at a really nasty level, and kind of underappreciated, I think, nationally a little bit, that Georgia Bulldogs defense. And I think that's, for me, I look at the 12 teams that start that journey towards Miami this weekend, and I think Georgia is the team that, for me, is the strongest, and has the hallmarks of every of a national championship that's come before, a national championship winner that's been before. So,
couple of minutes very quickly before we finish up, Laura. How are you spending Christmas? Are you spending it at home, or do you go away for Christmas?
Yeah, we're gonna start the day at home, and then we're actually flying to Atlanta on Christmas Day. We're gonna visit my parents' house briefly, and then we're gonna drive to Josh's family's house in Alabama, which is not that far away. And the Monday night football game that week, just 3 days later, is in Atlanta, so it worked out pretty well just being in that area of the country. So hopefully listen, that's the plan. You just never know what's going to actually happen, but hopefully it happens. And I wish all of you a happy Christmas, and I'd love to know what you guys are doing on Christmas.
Well, Alex is doing something really quite fancy, aren't you, Alex? Tell us where you're
Not
going.
quite on Christmas, but I'm heading away on vacation.
Wow.
Christmas and New Year. We're going to Portugal and Spain for 10 days, which is fun.
Ooh, I love that.
Ollie, you've got your hoodie. Are you staying at home? You just like
yeah, I mean, technically, the Hawaii Bowl, California versus Hawaii, kicks off at 1 a.m. Christmas Day, our time. So you could say we're watching college football on Christmas Day. So yeah, and then we'll,
as you should,
do family things with kids and turkey and stuff, and rewatch the Hawaii Bowl.
So you're just giving away. You're a turkey guy. See?
No, we're actually not. Chicken and lamb. Chicken and lamb on Christmas Day.
Turkey's overrated. It's not very good.
Please don't.
Oh, you've got to set George off now.
George, ham is better, George. You know this.
Well, you're sponsored to say that, so let's.
Not on this show. I tell the truth here, okay?
You're gonna have a T-shirt, right, and a banner above you.
Which... He makes ham.
Yeah, like just sneaking it in there. Well done. Keep the brand alive.
We're having Nathan's hot dogs with Duke's mayo for.
Ooh.
Christmas Day.
We've been trying so hard to get sponsorship on this podcast, and all of a sudden, three come along
you
at
know
one
what?
time.
I think I'm going to send this off and see if anybody wants to buy in. You guys deserve that.
Thanks.
Thank you. Well, we would appreciate that. Really quickly, because we've got like a minute and a half. Nativity play. I was going to say, which character would you play in nativity play? But were you in a nativity play when you were young, and which character did you play?
I was, and I was one of the angels, but the funny thing was I wanted to be the baby Jesus, but I was like too old. I couldn't be the baby. And my parents were like, you can't be the baby Jesus. Like, it's not going to be a real baby. Anyway. So silly.
The topic of angels came up before you joined, but Alex, I'm intrigued as to what character you played in the nativity play.
Oh, I've been hitting the head too many times to remember back that far. I think, and this is going to make everyone laugh. Very, very faint memories of playing a wise man.
You're sitting in a wise man's seat.
Yeah.
Oh, love it.
Ollie, quickly, you must
Shepherd.
have Shepherd,
tea towel and a bit of rope.
That's a classic part, right?
And this is one of my sheep.
We're going to let Laura go before she has to be dug out of her car from the snow. But you've got a busy week coming up. You've got 2 SEC Nation shows.
Yeah.
We technically can't see SEC Nation in this country, but for those who try really hard, what can they watch out for this week, Laura?
I appreciate all of you that try really hard. Let me just say that, okay? We see you and we love you. I would say SEC Network, ESPN app, you get any of those ways, whatever you have access to. But yeah, we're going to be doing a really cool pregame show leading into Alabama, Oklahoma. And then I'll be on the sideline for that game too. And then we're also doing postgame. And then we're going to do our morning show the next morning at Texas A&M. And then also halftime and postgame there. So it's going to be a crazy 24 hours of college football. But I mean, what a joy. It's going to be so fun. I can't wait.
That sounds awesome. Right, we've kept you way longer than we had
No,
anticipated.
you're good.
But,
I hate to leave. This is a treat.
That's all from us. Thanks to Laura, Ollie, and Alex for being brilliant and taking time out. Thanks to you for listening and continue to support us. We wish you and your families a Merry Christmas, and we look forward to more awesome football in the new year.